It's stress on your body to be eating too little, and it's a stress on the body to exercise, but it's a good stress. We want all this stuff in balance. If you eat too much, that's also a stress. But we do need to fuel our training. And too many women who are going in their 40s are sort of heading towards that transition. They do what worked for them before in the past in their 20s and 30s. Well, you eat less, you exercise more. And what's happening, it's not working anymore.
Welcome to another episode of the Math Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, master trainer, and weight management expert, Narado Zico Powell. And I have another fantastic guest for you today. A two-timer, actually. She was on the show before it was even on YouTube, right? So if you didn't hear my first interview with Zora the Explorer, check it out. She dropped some amazing information. And whenever a guest is as awesome as Zora, I asked her to come back for a second time. So here we go. See, Zora is a sports nutrition coach, gerontologist. And when I interviewed her the last time, I'd never heard the term gerontologist. I'm like, what the heck is that? You really got to explain that to us. So she's going to break that down. Aging expert. And she has a fantastic podcast that she's going to tell you about as well. So some of the topics we're going to talk about today are 3 tips for weight loss. Why a lot of women struggle to lose weight, especially during menopause, even pre-menopause. So we got some stuff that she's going to talk about. How to lose weight during menopause, her eating and longevity. Oh, I messed that up. Sorry. Her eating and longevity cookbook, and a whole lot more. And with that being said, Zora, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Narado. It's been a pleasure to be on the podcast the first time, and I'm so excited to talk to you again about this topic, which so many women do come to me with this problem. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
I'm ready, but before we get into the topics today, I want to ask a question. Zora the Explorer, because I absolutely love your name. And for those who are not familiar with you, how did that name even come about?
Oh my gosh, that was when I was in Hong Kong doing Periscope. This was the first live streaming before it came onto Facebook and Instagram. And I was named this by somebody who was following me, and they would watch my videos, go exploring through Hong Kong and Asia and moving around. And they just said, "You're an explorer, Zora the Explorer." And it just kind of stuck. And I've been that way. It's always been on my social media handles until I got the blue badge with Facebook. And they said, "You have to change your name to your real name, not just Zora the Explorer." So that kind of, that's been pushed to the side. I had to become Zora Benhamou, but if you Google Zora the Explorer, you'll always find me.
Yeah, and honestly, for the years that I've known you, I still can't pronounce your last name. So yours always going to be Zora the Explorer to me. But let's get into this puppy. Let's talk about weight loss, right? So just quickly tell us, what are 3 general tips you can give us for weight loss?
Oh my gosh, the 3, it's so hard to do just 3. But my first and most important tip is your mindset. Really, I hate the word weight loss. I'm sorry. It's just, especially women who are struggling with this, because that's the goal. Let's lose weight. And then if it doesn't happen, we're very, very frustrated. So my mindset is we're going to build muscle. We're going to build strength, and we're going to build power. That will be our goal. That is very achievable. That's going to happen. And weight loss is just a number, right? We stand on a scale, and I know you've talked about this before. It's just a number. Muscle weighs more than fat. And so you may not even lose weight, or you may not lose a lot of weight, but your whole body composition can change when you get in the mindset of building muscle power and strength. So I love to ditch that word, because unless you have a body composition scale where you can measure the fat percentage and measure the muscle percentage, not just look at the number on the scale, then you're going to get a much more realistic picture of what's happening to your body, and your clothes are fitting better, and you're going to have a much better mindset. And there's so many other benefits that come with building muscle and power and strength. And you're going to be much more happy with that if that's just if we change the focus. The weight loss, I mean, that's just our fat loss or whatever it is that you want. That's just going to be a byproduct. So that's my number one tip. Yeah, you want to say something about that? I know.
Honestly, I do have something to say about that because I wanted to talk about the scale for a little bit. Because even if you have one of those, which by the way, most of them are completely inaccurate, they're very off, but it does give you a guide, right? To get some people say if you, at least if you're improving on the scale that you're using, that should help you. But that can also get into your psyche. So just be very careful of that as well. Because you're like, oh, I didn't lose any fat this month. Oh, I didn't build any muscle this month. Oh, this didn't happen. And it just really started to, it really can, it interrupt you. I'm not the word interrupt what I'm using. It can, what's the word I'm looking for here? It can
hijack your goals. And
yes, hijack your mindset, right?
And it also it can make or break your day by just looking at whether it's muscle fat or just your weight. And so there are people who do really well just stepping on a scale and they enjoy the data and it doesn't really make a difference in their mindset. But there are a lot of people who do. So that's when you just ditch that. Your clothes will tell you how you're doing. Your mood will tell you how you're doing. You're just looking in the mirror. That's, I think, a much better measure of your muscle mass or your strength and your power. And you'll see that in the gym or lifting up your groceries or climbing up a flight of stairs. You'll notice it just in yourself and your body much better than let's just focus on a number on a scale. So I agree with you with that in that sense. It depends on you really on your attitude and your relationship with these types of scales. Cool.
Go ahead. I'm on tip number 2. I'm
number
right there
two.
with you. I'm right there. Tip number 2.
Okay, so we're talking specifically about women. Then I would say take a look at your hormones. All right, your hormones and your weight or your muscle mass, your power, your strength, your fatigue, all of this stuff is really very, very closely tied to your hormones. So if you're a woman still cycling and you want to take a look at your cycle, when does the period start? When does it end? When is it coming? And you're going to start to track this. Please, women, go and get an app like what's the one I use, Clue, CLUE. Just go on something like that or get a piece of paper and pen, and you're going to start tracking your cycle, and you're going to start noticing some things that are similar each month. Okay. You're going to notice some trends. And because especially when we're going through perimenopause, which is 5 years before you hit menopause. And just to give you a little short lesson on menopause is just a one-day event. It's when you've hit 12 months, consecutive months without a period. Okay. And because sometimes very often most women are going through perimenopause is you have a period and then you don't have it for 3 or 4 months. And then it comes back and you think you're going in menopause and you're not yet. And it's really a stupid marker is just to say that one day event. And when that sort of happens at 12 consecutive months, then you are technically post-menopausal. So perimenopause is usually 5 years before you hit menopause. And the average age for menopause is 51. And so you're probably in your late 40s, you're having these fluctuations, but that's just an average. So many women are already in perimenopause in their early 40s. Even late 30s is not unusual. So I would love for women to really start tracking their cycle, looking for trends, because when we start to lose estrogen, which happens, our sex hormones, we start to lose estrogen, we start to lose testosterone, we start to lose progesterone. These are muscle building, muscle supporting hormones. They do a lot of other things, but when it comes to building muscle and strength and burning fat, it's really, really important that we understand our hormones. So if you're cycling, for example, when you want to lift heavy weights, and I'm sure, Narada, you know about this too, you want to hit the middle of your cycle. This is sort of somewhere between day 12 and 14. That's when testosterone is at its peak, and you can really hit your personal best with lifting heavy weights. So that my second tip is really learn about your hormones and when is a good time to train in order to build muscle mass most optimally. And when you are building muscle mass, well, then I know we only have three. There is, I don't want to talk about eating your protein and building, lifting heavy weights. I mean, that's kind of understood. We know we need to do that. And you've just said this over and over again. It's super important. But when I was working with women in their 40s in this perimenopause time, they were doing this. In fact, they were eating technical quote unquote healthy, and they were training like a mad woman. And what I was finding out is actually they were not sleeping because they were very stressed. So I would love women to focus on sleep hygiene and managing stress. And there's a lot of reasons why, and a lot of it has to do with high cortisol levels. And high cortisol levels love to hold on to fat, particularly belly fat. So we want to make sure we really get good quality and quantity sleep and manage our stress so that our hormones are all balanced. And then we can really build muscle much more easily to burn that fat or to get the body composition that you want.
You know, the topic of sleep seems to come up a whole lot. And whenever I talk about weight loss, I talk about health, it always goes back to sleep. And a lot of times when I have discussions with people and they tell me, they're struggling to lose weight, that's the first place I usually go. I don't even talk about your diet. I talk about sleep. Then I talk about your stress management before I even get into nutrition and all those other wonderful habits that we know about, right? Because no matter if you eat the quote unquote perfect diet, if your sleep sucks, it's not going to do you as much good. Trust me. And like you're saying, with managing stress and cortisol levels and hold on to belly fat, those are very important things. Our bodies, when we're stressed, our bodies don't know if we're running from a tiger or if we just didn't sleep well the night before. All it knows is that we're stressed. And that's very important. I'm saying all that to say that on my website, zkhealth.com, I do have an article on how to get quality sleep. It's a free article. So just go on my website, zkhealth.com, you search sleep, and you will read an article. I put it together because it's taken me a lot to study and also with my own practice with my clients to put that together. So, and many people who have read it have told me how it's really helped them because they didn't know the importance of sleep hygiene. And that sleep hygiene begins in the morning, not when you're trying to go to sleep. So check it out at my website. That's all I got to say about that. But thank you for those wonderful tips there, Zora.
Oh, send that article to me because I just revamped my website. Maybe we can post a link to that article because it is super important. You're an athlete, and we know that athletes need more sleep than the average person, right? So if you are training or if you are trying to take care of your health, it is that important. And I'm not sure if you've spoken about the release of growth hormone that happens while we sleep. And I don't remember the actual times, if it was something between, it's early evening. I know that. And so if you're robbing yourself of sleep and going to bed at 2 a.m, well, you're just not taking advantage of that growth hormone, and it'll be much harder to build muscle. So I think it's really, and again, I'm talking so much about muscle and building muscle because I just want to move away from that weight loss, because we want people to understand when you build more muscle, your metabolism is running so much faster. You are going to be burning through the food that you eat and the stored fat and all that. It's going to be the byproduct. So, I don't say so much the word weight loss, but I want people to understand I'm talking about muscle because this is what you really, the direction you want to go and change that mindset.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. In fact, I've had even experts on the show that when I tell them that I eat 6 meals a day, they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "Oh my gosh, are you snacking? That's not healthy." And I'm like, "No, I don't snack. If I don't eat 6 meals a day, there probably wouldn't be a Zico." Okay, so I'll be extremely cracky all the time. But I also train twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. So there you go. It kind of works itself out because I'm a madman. But
Mm,
so, and
yeah.
you're right. I do for the most part to stay away from the word weight loss because that's why I always say the Math Over Mind experience is a weight management show. not necessarily just a straight weight loss show. But I also do acknowledge that weight loss is part of the equation at some point. So,
Yeah, and it's the language that we use, and people understand it, and that's why we continue to say it or use it. If we can eventually get to the point where we're using that word less and less, and start using the other one, it would change the mindset. So I totally get you, and I have to name certain my podcast titles even have to include the word weight loss, because I know people will be attracted to that more than building muscle, but they don't understand yet that's the whole point. So we have to sometimes just use that word, but I would love to transition away from it.
now with the risk of you yelling at me again, let me ask you one more thing. Because we've talked a lot about, your three tips for weight loss, which sounds like you gave us like 10 just a while ago. Wonderful tips, by the way, wonderful tips. But why do women tend to struggle with this?
Well, the hormones have a lot to do with it. And that's why I ask women to please track your hormones through an app. And once you understand the hormones and then the trends, and everyone's individual, even though I say, oh yeah, between day and 12 and 14, that's when testosterone is high. Well, we all are bio-individual, meaning we all are different. So you have to do your own experiment. And that's what biohacking is all about, is hacking your biology through self-experimentation. And so that's how you're going to get the best program for yourself, and the best protocol for yourself is just by doing things, failing. Yeah, experiments sometimes go wrong, but that's how we learn, and we learn more about our bodies. So really, it's women need to go understand their hormones. Now, when it comes to perimenopause and postmenopause, we are losing estrogen, which is a very important hormone for building muscle. And so women who are in perimenopause or postmenopause, and you can go and test and find out where your hormones are at, how they're behaving, how they're metabolizing. And then if you choose to, you can replace or replenish or top up those hormones that are declining in order to get the benefits. Because when you are in this depleted state of hormones, you not only are robbing yourself of building muscle much more easily, but you are maybe having hot flashes, or you're getting night sweats and you can't sleep. And so you're obviously tired the next day. And if you're tired, then you got a bit of brain fog. And if you're brain fog, then you're a little bit moody. And then you don't feel like choosing the right foods. You're not up to salmon and broccoli. You go just take whatever, because you've had the poor sleep, and the hormones, ghrelin and leptin, which are appetite regulating hormones, are totally off. And then you just are in this vicious cycle. So please, like, you don't need to suffer anymore. Some women, actually, I think in my experience in this world of peri and postmenopause, there's actually, most women think they need to suffer through it. Just buckle up. And so you don't need to suffer anymore. You just need to find a menopause specialist or a doctor who can guide you through this whole thing. Because if you're going to replenish your hormones, you need to talk to a doctor about this. You don't just go order something on Amazon or pop into the pharmacy and self-experiment. I wouldn't do that. You need the guidance of a doctor. So, but it's old school to think, oh, estrogen causes cancer, or hormone therapy is bad for you. This is so old. And unfortunately, some of us are still stuck in that world. So we don't need to suffer anymore. Nothing bad's going to happen. You just need the doctor's guidance. So that's why women really, really struggle. And there is your hormones, and even if you're in premenopause, which is the time before perimenopause, because peri is around the menopause period. Premenopause is when you're still cycling and everything's fine. Well, you may get pregnant, you may have some hormonal imbalances, and it's not just estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. You may want to look at your cortisol, because you don't have to wait until you're going through menopause to have cortisol too high. And you may have to look at your thyroid or your thyroid function. And there's so many hormones that you really need to pay attention to. And we have to learn, unfortunately, this is the first time you've heard of all these words: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, like all of this. You just have to learn. It's not complicated. It can be very complex. and you don't have to go deep, but it's just about learning and educating yourself bit by bit through books, through talking to your doctors, talking to health experts about your hormonal transition. So that's one reason. Another reason that I found in my experience coaching women through I hate the word weight loss, but weight loss, that's why they'd come to me, is I found out a lot of them are, of course, they're not sleeping and stressed. We obviously work on that, but they would fall into this zone called LEA, right? This is the LEA state. It's, I'm totally having a brain fog moment. Low energy availability. Sorry. Low energy availability or low energy state, LES or LEA. And what's happening is that these women are eating very little food and they're training way too hard. And so what's happening is they're having this hormonal imbalances because your body's not used to that. It thinks it's in a completely stressed out state. It's stress on your body to be fasting too long. It's stress on your body to be eating too little. And it's a stress on the body to exercise, but it's a good stress. We want all this stuff in balance. If you eat too much, that's also a stress. But we do need to fuel our training. And too many women who are going in their 40s or sort of heading towards that transition, they do what worked for them before in the past in their 20s and 30s. Well, you eat less, you exercise more. And what's happening, it's not working anymore. And there's too much cortisol running through the body. That's that stress hormone. And again, that's holding on to fat and putting you in this low energy availability state. So really, I think women, because of the pressure from society and trying to be thin and yeah, that it's so hard. And men have these problems too, but definitely not as much, because I have met men who have bulimia, anorexia, food struggles as well. So it's not only women, but it does happen to a lot of women because of that pressure in society. And I think that's another reason why women struggle. There's more of it. I'll stop my mouth right here.
And you know what? I do have a question for you though, because in your first tip, you're talking about hormones in your doctor, right? But
Yeah.
is there a specific doctor that you say someone should seek out in a certain specialization or a general practitioner? What do you think?
Usually they're functional medicine doctors or integrative medicine doctors. They sort of go beyond that because the way I understand it through my research is in the US, 7% of doctors feel confident to guide a woman through menopause. That's really low. And so it doesn't mean all functional medicine doctors know how to do that either. It's just that it's a new thing. I mean, we've had this forever, but it's a new thing to actually speak up and use our voice. And now we have information and we have to get comfortable with speaking to our doctors about menopause. So you got to find a doctor who understands menopause and hormones and knows how to prescribe them. Because it's not, I don't like these, there are doctors who just give this one standard formula to every woman. And I don't think that's correct. I think we need to tailor make it for our experience and according to our symptoms, according to where our hormones are at. So I love to test, measure, and assess. That's what biohacking is all about. But you need to see a doctor. And I would say you can go to the Menopause Society of North America. You just Google that. If you're in North America, if you're in Asia, use Menopause Society of Asia. If you're in Europe, European Menopause Society. There's so many societies. So you can, through those websites, can find a doctor who specializes in menopause. And if not, you just interview them. You kind of go through them as well. But you do want to feel confident with what your doctor is prescribing. But I'd say even before you go to your doctor, please read up on it. There's so much information out there because there are still many doctors who say, I will not prescribe you hormones until you're actually in menopause. So you got to pretty much suffer and sweat and pad. That's all this pain until you actually get to that point, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then there's some doctors who say, no, it causes cancer. And that's absolutely false statement, and we can't say that anymore. These are doctors who are just not following the Menopause Society guidelines. And so you really want to find a doctor who does understand your situation, understands hormones, knows how to prescribe them, and get you out of that suffering state. Or if you're into, okay, I'm not suffering in, say, the sense of not having hot flashes, but you may have a little bit of brain fog, and you think, oh, that's normal aging. It's not normal aging. It's you got to go. It's probably your hormones. I mean, it could be many other things, but it's a box to tick off if you are struggling a little bit with that. And you don't need to say, oh, this is normal. You'll find so many other benefits when you are able to get your hormones in balance. And there are people who are not candidates or really not comfortable with hormone therapy. So I don't want to have to pressure anyone. There shouldn't be any shaming whether you do or you don't. You have to choose what's comfortable for you. But there are many other things. There's medicine that you can take and drugs. There's also adaptogens. There's the things that are plants that can help you with whatever symptoms that you are struggling with. But yeah, definitely, yeah, you go. And there's also a4m.com, the with the number 4 and then m.com. I think it's .com or .org, and that's where you can also find some functional medicine doctors as well.
So didn't I tell you that she really knows her stuff? Like, sometimes when I do an introduction, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm maybe like over promising, right? But I think with Zora, I under promise and then she just over delivered because she's giving us some fantastic information. I mean, if you're not loving this episode, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. But I'm gonna give my friend a little bit of a break though, because we have a couple more things to talk about. Like, how does she address weight management and menopause? And also, we're gonna talk about her cookbook for longevity. So, and she's gonna give us some snippets from her cookbook as well. So you want to stick around for that. But let me quickly talk about one of my favorite companies. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about Perform. You know how much I love Perform. You know how much I love the company, the Amino Co. Right? Because their products are 100% science-backed, built on amino acid technology that was first funded by NASA and further refined through rigorous research and independent clinical trials. So yes, Perform is an essential amino acid-based formulation designed to improve muscle performance during exercise, enhance mental clarity and concentration, reduce fatigue and dehydration, and minimize recovery times. And like I told you, your boy goes hard in the paint. I live heavy practically like 2 times a day. Sometimes I have to throw in another workout in there, right? So I love this stuff. It really helps me to perform better and to recover better. See, I drink Perform more. I personally use it as a pre-workout. And the reason why is because it has essential amino acids, it has creatine, and because of the particular mix of essential aminos and creatines, the caffeine amount is low in Perform compared to 300 milligrams of most pre-workouts. It's just sugar and pre-workouts. I have nothing else, because what we don't realize is that essential aminos and creatine can be used for energy. Our bodies can utilize that very well, especially creatine, because it's been studied and been around forever and ever and ever. So it's kind of like you just ate like a nice steak or something like right before your workout, but it's already in that free form where it's already delivered, where your body doesn't have to break it down. So you combine that with the small amount. I think it's about 60 or 70 milligrams of caffeine. Honestly, I double up on it. I go about 120 or so in for your workout, and you're like a whole different person. I mean, strength wise, performance wise, and you don't get jittery again, because it's not like those pre-workouts that just load you up with sugar and just drop your energy right after. You don't get that jittery feeling. I absolutely love Perform. Also Heal that I combine it with, which is like sometimes an intra or post workout depending on the day, right? But absolutely love it. Something else I love about the Amino Co is that they do have some all natural flavors. So if you want to stay away from like artificial flavors and stuff, they have that option for you as well. So, and which is the one that honestly that I do drink, and you will see it on the website. It will say natural flavors. So check out Amino Co. I absolutely love it. There's this research that I absolutely love, and I always talk about it. Is 20% increase in exercise completed, 22% increase in endurance, 11% increase in peak performance during exercise, 10% improvement in cognitive function during exercise. Anything your boy can use more of is definitely that cognitive function. I tell you that, right? So check out their website. It's aminoco.com/Zico Health. You click on it, see this beautiful face just smiling at you, right? And better than that, you get 30% off their fantastic products. And because, I try to be a nice guy, I will make sure that the website is in the description of the episode. So you can click on there and get your 30% off. And with that being said, we're moving back to the regular scheduled programming. But Zora, I see you had your hand up. So what did you have to say?
Can I comment on Aminoco? Because
Go.
I first heard about it through you with the first podcast. So I went to go research it and it's like, oh, this is really good. But I'm in Europe and I can't get it, which is a bit of a problem. But I listened to another podcast, and with the founder and researcher of the formulator of this product. I was blown away. I was really blown away what he had to say, and how this is not just an essential amino acid like anything else you'd buy in the market. This has been formulated with the right dosages of certain amino acids that are important. And because if you have too much or too little, and it's not in the right combination with the others, it doesn't have the same effect on your body or your muscle mass or anything. I was really surprised. And so I'm also blown away. They give 30% off, or you give 30% off. That's pretty amazing. I don't know any other product that gives such a big discount. And so I'm dying to try this myself. I would say that is my number one choice when I can get it. So I'm really excited to try it, and I want to thank you for introducing me to Amino Co.
Oh, thank you. No, I love it. And it's funny because everybody knows that if I recommend something, it's because I use it and I definitely believe in it. I don't know if the Dr. Robert Wolf is probably the person that you listen to, because I had him on my show. So, but it wasn't on my episode that you listened to him, was it?
No, I didn't. And I got to go and listen to it. Yes, to yours, because it just, I don't know if it just, it popped up in the other one, and I was like, okay, I'll listen to it. So, but yeah, I'm going to go listen to yours now.
See, she's cheating on me, everybody. She's cheating on me. See, I thought we were friends. We're twinning with the same blue shirts and everything. And she's over here hurting my feelings of listening to all the podcasters. I mean, what's going on here? But back to the regular schedule programming. So let's talk about menopause, right? Because this really is a hot topic. And already we know how much you know about this stuff. So just give us some ideas of how do you address it with women that are in menopause?
So we always go back to test, measure, assess. It would test, know where you're at. And some people are like, you know what? I don't need to test. I know I'm struggling with this. I've got all the symptoms. So it depends on your doctor, and it depends on what you're comfortable with. I like to test both the blood and the urine to see how your hormones are reacting. And so I'm talking about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. You need those. Yes, women do need testosterone. And so through a blood test, that's quite simple. And that's something your doctor doesn't quite give you the whole picture, because your hormones, when you test them through a urine test, it actually tells you how they're metabolizing, because it's not just estrogen. We have three major estrogens in our body. There's E1, E2, E3. And so we want to see that they are, quote unquote, behaving the way they should, because they can go down, they could be metabolizing and going down pro-cancer pathways, and in bad pathway. You don't want to be in that pathway. So that's why a doctor really needs to understand how to prescribe and what to prescribe. And you want to know where you're going. And there's things that you can do in order to mitigate any of those negative effects if you happen to be going down that pathway. So when I work with women, I try to understand where they're at, what are their symptoms, what's happening. There's a list of like 100 symptoms that can happen, but the major ones are the unexplained weight gain, because women will say, I'm eating the same thing I've always done, and now I suddenly gain weight. And then there is the brain fog. Then there is mood fluctuations, and there could be hot flashes and night sweats. Those are generally the major ones. And then there's joint issues, and there's a lot of other things, but it's not like we have all of these all at the same time. You can have one, you can have two, you can have multiple ones. Maybe some of them are extremely painful and they're very strong, and then some people kind of barely notice them at all. And some women go through menopause and they feel nothing and they don't notice a thing. So I want to break a little bit that stereotype as well, that we're all going to be doomed and fall off a cliff when we when we lose all our hormones. Now there's plenty of women who have absolutely zero experience in that transition, and they just sail through it quite smoothly. So the first thing I do is, okay, where are you at and where are your hormones at? If we can test, because the urine test is called the Dutch test, the DUTCH, dried urine test of comprehensive hormones, that will give you a lot of information, but it is very expensive. So generally people do this once a year, but you don't have to do this. I've interviewed plenty of doctors who say, you know what, I don't treat the data, I treat the symptoms. I want to know if the person feels bad, I want to help that person. So once we do that, well, then you can choose, okay, hormone therapy is one, but I always say you can't out hormone a bad diet and lifestyle. Okay. If you can please get that foundation that you and I talk so much about in terms of your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, your stress management, your community, your purpose in life, knowing yourself, all of this stuff is really, get that foundation, then the whatever it is that you're going to do, whether it's a hormone therapy or some biohack or some, you know, add in amino acids, for example, well, then they're going to work much better if you create this environment in your body that's very receptive to these treatments and to whatever hack you want to do. So really, that's what I try to get all my clients to do, is to please, no matter whether you're going to try to take a shortcut through hormone therapy or not, I want them to get their sleep hygiene on. Meaning they want to have some routine at night before they go to bed. It's not just look at your phone or your computer, close it, and then expect to fall asleep. So many women struggle with sleep during this transition, and we don't need to be adding fuel to the fire. So please get your sleep hygiene on. And some people can't sleep because they're really stressed. It's not a hot flash. It's just they're waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning with some crazy problem that they haven't addressed during the day, and then the body wakes them up at night to try to solve the problem. So getting a routine, I like to recommend journaling before bed. I know it sounds so kooky, but it really, really works. It's the feedback that I've gotten so much back on. And then there's, you know, some people like a tea, some people like to take supplements, some people like to listen to music, meditation, red light therapy. You know, I'm in the whole biohacking space. So we have, you know, the hot, cold contrast showers or just a hot bath. There's so many things that we can do to get better sleep, but really get your sleep hygiene on. And that's usually very often stress and sleep go hand in hand. And getting a healthy diet, but exercise is such a magic bullet too. If it helps control the blood sugar rises and falls, it tries to equilibrate the sugar rush that happens when we eat food, just in general. But women who are going through peri and postmenopause have struggle with their blood sugar. They become insulin resistant, meaning they can't eat as much of carbs. Let's say, I hate the word demonizing carbs. Carbs are great. Carbs are good for you, but let's talk about those processed, refined carbohydrates. We're not able to manage them as well as we did when we were younger. So we need to regulate our blood sugar levels. And so getting exercise does some magic for that, to control that. So I really would highly recommend that as well. And that gives you energy, gives you more mitochondria, which is your powerhouse of your cells. And so if you have more energy, then you can do more things and you'll be happier. And it's just this whole cascade of wonderful things when you are able to exercise. And exercise, again, is a broad term. Like, what does that really mean? It's different for different people at different times of their lives. And you can't compare an 80-year-old man to a 25-year-old woman. Their exercise routines will probably look a little bit different. But that is such a great magic bullet for women going through menopause, because women who have excess body fat, meaning too much, because we need some body fat, but having too much, they tend to have more hot flashes. So that's just one example. And if you can control the hot flashes through managing your weight or building that muscle, well, then you're gonna sleep better. And when you sleep better, you make better food choices. And when you make better food choices, you're happier, and the hormones are all more balanced, and all that. So that's really, I try to get that foundation. And one thing I think, particularly women going through menopause or through that transition, if they have a family, kids are a bit older, they don't need to change diapers anymore, rush their kids to school very often. They can do that on their own. Or maybe you've been working on your business or your career, and you're kind of burnt out, and you're going through a life transition. It's not just hormones, but things are changing. Kids are leaving the home. If you were a mother and that was your role, then that role is taken away from you. And we've been so focused on all our lives on a family or a job, other people. If you're in this sandwich generation, which is a woman generally in her 50s who are taking care of children still who are at home, maybe they're teenagers, but they're also dealing with aging parents. And that's a huge, huge stress on that woman. So when you're getting through this period, this life transition, you really don't have time for anything else. So I want women to step back. And if you find the time, if you can, you usually do have a little bit more time as you get older, you're not changing the diapers anymore. You can take time to get to know yourself. What do I want? Not what's best for the family or best for my parents. You need to know what's best for you. And you never ask yourself that when you're raising a family or building your career. It's really time for women to step back and get to know themselves better. And there's many ways to do that, so I won't get into it, but I want them to really focus on themselves, because when you focus on yourself, the hormones start to balance, and then we're able to have a much easier transition into menopause.
Fantastic information. I love that, everyone. If you don't, like I said, if you're not familiar with Zora's work, we're gonna talk later about how you can access her website and start to learn more, because I mean she's dropping a bomb of knowledge on us, everyone. So thank you so much again for that, Zora. Which leads me to my last big question, because we want to talk about the aging, because we know menopause is definitely connected to aging. I mean, it has to be, right? But you also have a cookbook about aging. So tell us more about it.
I want to ask you something before we go into that, because I'm curious to hear your opinion. Can I ask you?
Go ahead.
So one thing that's running around the media and people are hearing more about are quote unquote weight loss peptides. And I'm in the biohacking space, and we love peptides in general for so many things, but we have these semaglutides, like Ozempic is a name, or tirzepatide, or some of these things. What is your opinion on that for, weight loss?
To be honest with you, I don't have one, because I haven't done enough studies on peptides. So.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about them?
Go ahead.
I'm going to connect you to a peptide expert, because I've interviewed so many people on this, and it's such a hot topic. And I think these days you can't talk about weight loss without talking about peptides, because people are so confused. There's a lot of information out there that's conflicting. It seems that there's two camps. There's, the pros and those cons, and they're against it, or people who love it. And the take that I get on it is that there are people who are doing the right thing. They are doing everything that we're saying, and they still struggle with their weight. They're insulin resistant. They still are just kind of stuck. And there are people who are massively obese, and they really need a help with this. And this is why I think this is a really good thing to help those people. It's not a replacement. It's not served to not exercise and diet. And I'm afraid this is where it goes wrong, is because that's what's happening. People are still eating their shitty diet and not exercising, and they're losing weight. And I don't like that. I want people to use the peptides to their advantage while they are trying to clean up their diet and exercise and sleep and manage their stress and all that, because it's kind of like a crutch. I think it could really help people jumpstart that lifestyle. And so I think it's really good, but it can really go wrong. And I think this is where people get confused. And when somebody puts their pole in the con camp, they will say things like, "You lose muscle mass." Well, not necessarily. You can, if you're not exercising and you're not eating your protein, yes, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose the fat and you're going to lose the muscle, which I think is the big problem. But it doesn't have to be. So if you want to explore peptides, and if you've done all the right things, or if you're really struggling and you want a little crutch, you can go talk to a peptide specialist or a doctor, because you got to be careful, because it's like the Wild West out there. There are people you can buy these things and you inject yourself with this liquid peptide, and peptides are generally pretty safe, but you don't know where people are sourcing their peptides, and who knows what's in there. So really, I would ask people to do their due diligence, talk to their doctor, or talk to a real trustworthy peptide specialist. I know a few of them and I can connect you, but that's where I think it's a really good thing and it could be a really bad thing. And I really think people who are struggling with the weight, doing all the things, it may be a great solution for them as well.
I apologize. I apologize. I was on mute, everyone. I was trying to switch back off mute for that. So I completely apologize. But thank you for sharing that. And I do have what's her name? You introduced me last year.
Natalie Nidham.
Natalie. I actually have had Natalie on the show, not on the YouTube, but she's on my original podcast. So if you're interested in peptides, go ahead and check out that episode as well, because Natalie has some fantastic information, and she also have her Instagram page. And I'll let her, as the expert, really field those type of questions there, right? So, well, with that being said, though, I want to talk about you before we get out of here, because I think this episode is going to go on for now and until the rest of the day. So let's talk about your cookbook a little bit. Can you just give us some explanation of, how did you
Yes.
come up with this, and how did you come up with these recipes?
This is a cookbook I made in 2017, and I was in the biohacking. That was my thing, biohacking and aging and longevity. Like that was everything I wanted. And so the cookbook is designed for men and women. It's not like only women or women only in menopause. It's for everyone. And it brings in all the knowledge that I gained through all my research to create easy recipes that people can follow in order to increase their chances of a long health span. I'm not sure if we talked about this before, health span versus lifespan. Lifespan is the number of years you live, and health span is the number of years you live full of vitality, free of disease, and a good quality of life. And as it is today, it's about 50 years old. And then we start taking medicine, we start to have heart problems, we start to have insulin resistance, and we have diabetes, and all the people are just starting to take their medications around the age 50. We want to push that later on in life, closer to 80, and have a very short period of disease and then just die and fall off the planet in a very short time. So we don't want to have this 30-year of struggle and medicine. So I created the cookbook with health span in mind, using ingredients, I don't want to call them superfoods, or things that have been shown in the literature to be very anti-inflammatory, or helpful for our hormones, or helpful for our brain, for all these issues that we get concerned about as we age, in terms of arthritis or Alzheimer's or heart disease. So I've created it with also enough protein in mind, because that's, as we age, we tend to lose our muscle mass. And it's not because, sarcopenia is not because of age. It's because we're not moving anymore. We become so sedentary that we're just not building the muscle anymore. And because, women have lost their hormones. So we're struggling with this as well. Even when we do try, we don't seem to build it as much as we could. So we need to make sure we have enough protein. So I made the recipe. So for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we have enough protein. And it's also a meal planner and a lot of information. It's not just a cookbook. It gives you the reasons why we want to add some of these foods, or some of these spices, or some of these herbs, some of these things that maybe you could only find in a health shop, or maybe Whole Foods if you have, or some other place. You can order a lot of things on Amazon these days that you can incorporate them in an easy way, because some people are like, well, I don't know what to do with reishi mushroom powder. Like, I don't know. You put it in a coffee, you put it in, how do you eat it? So I give you a lot of recipes on how to incorporate some of these superfoods into your daily life. And there's just a lot of information. So it's not just a cookbook, but it explains the reasons why we want to incorporate these as well. So, and I can show you a little sample if you want to see.
If you want to show a couple, that's fine. Yeah.
You have to enable my screen.
Oh, one moment. We're gonna have to pause on that because that I actually do not know
Okay.
how to do. So let's
Oh,
do this.
okay.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Tell my audience how can they learn more about your work and even get a copy of your cookbook.
Yes. Okay. So you can go to hackmyage.com. You'll find menopause programs, depending on the symptoms you have. You can go find the cookbook. You can find the longevity master plan, which includes the cookbook. So you have all of this. And if you want to use a code, we can give you a code, Zico, for 10% off. Is that a good code? ZECO?
Zico, that's perfectly fine. Yes.
Yeah, you can get 10% off of anything you find in there, whether it's a program or it's the cookbook or anything like that. You can use that. So I'll activate that code as soon as we finish. And I'm also on
Awesome.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. And it's always Hack My Age.
Perfect. And of course, I'm gonna make sure that all this information is in the show notes. ZikaHealth.com/hackmyage2, because Hack My Age was the first one, if my memory serves me correctly. So ZikaHealth.com/hackmyage2. And of course, the show notes are gonna be in the description of the episode as well. I'll make sure I'll put the code Zico there as well for your 10% discounts. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's absolutely fantastic. Everybody knows Zico is spelled ZECO, nice and simple. But with that being said, Zora, thank you for being here. Thank everybody for listening. Thank everybody for watching. And I promise you, I will have her back for another episode. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day, fam.
Thank you.